you say, look, what's the waste to fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud.
This whole thing about leaking IRS documents, tax documents, this is a threat, and this is why our government has got to be brought to heel, if you will.
What Doge uncovered about the Biden corruption is much worse than we thought. In fact, it goes way, way back. We even have Joe Biden admitting there was corruption way back some 15 years ago. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel, as we're going to check in on the stuff that Doge is uncovering. It's worse than even Trump could have imagined. It's worse than any of us could have imagined, in my view. I think he's saying like 80% of the government is corrupt. Let's watch Elon Musk on the Ted Cruz podcast.
Look, I think it's mostly, if you say, look, what's the waste to fraud ratio?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like 80% waste, 20% fraud. But you do have these sort of gray areas.
Yep.
So, example would be, we saw a lot of payments going out of Treasury that had no payment code and no explanation for the payment. And then we're trying to figure out what that payment is, and we'd see that, okay, that contract was supposed to be shut off, but someone forgot to shut off that contract, and so the company kept getting money.
Wow.
Now, is that waste or fraud?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, both.
But it's sort of
you know you're getting something you're not supposed to get.
You're not supposed to get it, but the government sent it to you, and nobody from the government asked for it back. Or take, for example, the $1.9 billion given to Stacey Abrams, a fake NGO.
Utter insanity.
Utter insanity. That's the Stacey Abrams. That one. He'll get back to that in a second, because we have more clips on that subject of Stacey Abrams got $1.9 billion to give away with almost zero accountability. Now, remember I mentioned Joe Biden was for all this stuff back in the day with here he is sitting next to Barack Obama, where he's vice president, and Barack Obama put him in charge of this waste, fraud, and abuse program way back then.
Everybody also agrees, I got from this morning, but I think we had before, that we waste a heck of a lot of money, and that somewhere around a third of all the dollars we spend on Medicare goes for nothing useful.
One third of money going to Medicare. That's back in Biden days. And now when Doge goes in and Trump, they want to go and reform Medicare. All the Democrats are going, they're cutting your Medicare. They're cutting your Medicare. Well, Biden himself said, this is back then, 1/3 of Medicare payments were being wasted. Of course, nothing was done about it because they didn't have no one wanted to touch this waste, fraud, and abuse.
We're not cutting Medicare benefits in this. We're trying to eliminate the third of the problem that's a waste. And this is a big entitlement. It's a big entitlement. Medicare, it exists. We got to figure out how to keep it from bankrupting the country without denying seniors what they're entitled to.
Yeah. They were very Doge back in the day, and now they're like, it's bloody murder, because we're exposing that it's a giant funding racket that had, since the Biden era, started funding mostly Democrat politicians around the world. But here's more of Elon Musk on the subject on that Ted Cruz podcast.
One of the biggest scam fraud holes we've uncovered, which is really crazy, is that the government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is with the $1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit. Buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes,
on the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
And they claim everything is done for the children. And really, you give Stacey Abrams $1.9 billion, she can appoint herself as the CEO of this NGO and pay herself $500,000 a year. Who knows more? I mean, how are you going to even find it when your budget's $1.9 billion? It's intentional waste. It's intentional waste, which is fraud. Now, here's Harriet Hageman on what she's uncovering. She's finding stuff in the Department of Education. This grift, much worse than we thought, guys.
So one of the things that I believe that is very obvious over the last 4 years is that our federal government has been weaponized against us. And in my first term, I was fortunate enough to be on the Select Committee on Weaponization of the Federal Government. And we were looking at things like the IRS. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was an undercover operation with a gentleman who worked for the IRS. And he has explained that by using AI, they're able to access every person's bank account in the entire United States. And he even went as far as to say the world. I don't know about the ethics or the accuracy of that information. But for that reason, Jim Jordan and I authored a letter to the IRS demanding that they disclose how in the world they are accessing every single person's, how they could and would, and why they are accessing people's private bank accounts. But you know, the 87,000 IRS agents that Biden put in place, they were allegedly to go after the big guys. They were supposed to go after the millionaires and the billionaires. This guy spilled the beans that they don't go after the millionaires and billionaires. You know why? Because they can fight back, because they have lawyers and accountants and that can, and financial planners and experts who can fight back. You know who he said they targeted? They target low income and middle income people because they are the ones that cannot fight back.
Yep. Those are easy targets, low income. So remember that when the Democrats say make the rich pay their fair share, that was the fib that they told last time around. And then who did they end up going after? Low income. That is minorities, Black people, families, minority families, the poor, the poorest of the poor, the old ladies and old men, retirement people. That's who they sicked 87,000 agents on them. And she just now said, because they don't go after the big corporations, they have money to fight with. They know that you and I can't fight. So they went after us for easy pickings, easy kills on the tax code. Again, your Democrats, when they say they're here for the children and the poor and that they're going to go after the rich, they're hoping they can open up your envy in you and hatred of the rich. That's what they're hoping they can wake up and have you go, yeah, get those guys, get me those 87,000 new IRS agents, get them, and they come after you. And those same, mostly poor, by the way, vote Democrat, mostly poor, mostly minorities. And you have every audit coming. If you were sucker enough to vote for the Democrats, you deserve the audit of your business. They're going to burn you down. Your own party, I said this, I'm warning you guys, just as a principle, never put an X next to a Democrat. Never.
So they are specifically targeting middle America. This whole thing about leaking IRS documents, tax documents, this is a threat. And this is why our government has got to be brought to heel, if you will, which is what President Trump is trying to.
You think that's bad, guys. It's worse. You know how the Democrats, they hide behind the Department of Education. We've got them there too. This is a later podcast. This is actually a recent one by Harriet Hageman, the same lady there. They're smoking out George Soros. They're smoking out the most corruption you can imagine in the government. It's disgusting. I think it's insane. Just because we find it doesn't mean it's going to be stopped. You know, it's going to have to be stopped by Elon Musk and Doge exposing it, and then a congressman or some statesmen go in and change it. And then if they want to ever make it permanent, you have to write a law against it to make it permanent, or it's going to keep happening as soon as you turn your head.
Just to go back on the small detail of USAID funding Antifa, do you recall exactly which NGO it was funded through? Okay, and has that been a recent revelation?
Yeah, it was within the last, I don't know if it was Antifa, but I know Black Lives Matter. And keep in mind, they're one and the same with a.
Yeah, we posted that when we were doing Black Lives Matter back in the day. They were going, no, Antifa, those are the guys in the black hoods and all black clothing. And they're like mostly they're white guys under the hood and mostly protesting and fomenting. They are against Israel. They are for Hamas. They are pro-gay marriage. They're anti-abortionist. They go to anytime there's a march or something, they're there, and they're funded by George Soros, and they're violent. So they started the Chapo up in Portland, Oregon, the fake city up there. That was their big gig. Well, a bunch of them also showed up for the Black Lives Matter rally because they're paid for by the same group.
A lot of what happened during 2020.
Well, there's crossover, certainly.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've covered a lot on this show about what happened.
The other thing that USAID funded were these radically liberal prosecutors who will not prosecute, who will not prosecute certain crimes or certain people. So George Soros put in $14 million, USAID put in $17 million to get him elected.
Was that in collaboration together?
I don't know if it was
just separately?
All I can tell you is that's some of the information that has come out from Doge.
Is that still happening? Not from the SAID, obviously, but from Soros.
Funding the prosecutors?
Yeah.
I believe so. I mean, that's why we got Alvin Bragg in New York City. It's why we ended up with the gentleman in both San Francisco and Los Angeles, Gascon, and what was the other one? Chesa Boudin. Both of them, one was recalled, the other one was not, but he did lose his re-election last year. The gentleman in, I believe it's Baltimore, Maryland, is another one of the prosecutors that has refused to actually prosecute crimes.
Yeah, those are all Soros people. All Soros people, all corrupt, all Democrats, and partially funded by Doge. Now, here's the specific Department of Education clip I'm looking for. Watch this.
So is the Doge program targeted at these bureaucrats?
Yes.
And so what can you expect?
Well, let's look at the Department of Education. The federal Department of Education has a budget of about $280 billion a year. Less than 25% goes to educating our students.
Less than 25%. Did you hear that? Of the Department of Education. This is why that gal, McMahon, has to shut down the Department of Education. Only 25% of the money is going to educate kids. That's waste, fraud, and abuse just right there. And that's one of the biggest budgets there is, protected by, of course, unions. Look, my mom was a teacher's aide. She had deals. She saw how the teachers union ran the schools herself. It's corrupt. It has to be ended. And the Democrats are going to freak out and go, why are you trying to cut public schools?
So where does the other $220 billion go? It goes to a bureaucracy. It goes to a consultant. And that consultant then donates money back to the Democrats. And then it goes to a different consultant. And then it goes to an NGO. I mean, it is money laundering and money churning at its absolute best. And you can look at almost every single agency and you will find it. So the brilliance of Doge isn't that he's going in and cutting spending. He doesn't have the authority to do that. We're the ones that have the authority to do that. What I want him to do is come up with a report, go through agency by agency by agency, identify every single program that we should not be funding, put a number attached to it. We slap a preamble on the front of that report, and we say that every single agency is having their budget cut by X amount as shown in the attached report, and none of those programs can go forward from here on out.
And this is why Democrats are losing their minds over Elon Musk.
That's why. And that's why we support Elon Musk. Pray for him, because our country's financial stability hangs in the balance of this guy. Media is going to try to discredit him. They're going to punish him. They're going to try, they can't put him in jail because he's protected by Trump, but they can ruin his private business. They can go into Tesla. Now, they can't do it through terrorism, which they're trying to do. But right now, the Democrats are just trying to make it unfashionable and dangerous to own a Tesla, and they're trying to get people, there's signs going up in the UK right now telling people to not use X, to turn off X and to not use his platform. See what they're trying to do? They're trying to break him. It's not going to work because Elon Musk, he's the richest man in the world, and he loves free speech. He's driven. He's autistic. You can't convince him, guys. He's a winner. He's going to win. And the Democrats, all they have is this tired, old, bankrupt form of just screaming and emotionally crying in public, and they're used to getting their way. They're like, they need their hug box. It's not going to win, but we still have to fight. We can't do this without a fight, guys. But this exposes how bad the corruption is. And now because you watch the Doug TenNapel channel. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. We'll get to another one coming up next.